Hello, welcome to my knitting podcast, A Knitter Obsessed. My name is Bonnie, the obsessed knitter in question. If you are returning, welcome back, and if you're new here, welcome. This is my knitting podcast, so I'm going to tell you all about my current projects, any yarn I've got coming in, all sorts of fun stuff. So, if you are returning, then you know that I have been in Japan since the last podcast. So we went and spent about a week in Osaka, Japan. We also visited Nara and Kyoto while we were there. My husband is actually still there. He stayed an extra week with our friends to go to Tokyo, which I'm incredibly jealous of. I really couldn't swing the extra time, so that's okay. A week's vacation was plenty. I had a ton of fun. I was very excited to be home and see my pups actually by the time I got back. So speaking of which, one of my dogs, Maggie, is taking a nap behind the chair, so you might see her head peek in and out of the frame on occasion. She likes to hide back there. And then my other dog, Raina, is click-clacking on the hardwood floor because she likes to sleep on the hardwood floor. She's very fluffy, and it's about 90 degrees here today, so it's hot. Which, by the way, is why I'm not wearing any knitwear today. It's 90 degrees, it's hot. I don't own very much summer knitwear yet. The only one I own is my ranunculus, which I wore in my last podcast episode. So if you haven't seen that, be sure to go check that out. And I know I could wear it 2 episodes in a row, but I don't know, it just felt kind of wrong for some reason. So instead, I'm wearing, this is actually something I picked up in Japan. There were a lot of vintage stores and, you know, fun secondhand stores, and we did a whole day of shopping through them one day. And yeah, this is my, I picked up a little bit of a vintage bowling t-shirt. So today I will be Tana. But thought it was a bit of fun. I really like this sort of era of fashion and stuff. So no knitwear, but a fun new piece. But getting to the knitwear. Anyways, like I said, I've been in Japan. I haven't been home with all of my projects, and so I have no finished objects this week. And while I do have technically 4 whips currently going, I did not make any progress at all on 2 of them. So my Wishbone sweater by Veronica Lindberg has been a long ongoing project on this podcast. I still love it, we're still working on it, but it did not get touched at all in the last 2 weeks. It's not a travel friendly project at the moment, and it could not go on vacation with me, so it stayed in a box, nice and safe. Not a box basket, but whatever. And then my Hue Shift Afghan also did not get touched at all. It was, again, not travel friendly. It takes way too much yarn, way too many different types of yarn. And so it is safely in the same basket as the Wishbone sweater, tucked away, and we'll get back working on it soon. So those 2, I'm not even gonna bring them out and show them. Nothing has changed since the last podcast episode. Which means this might be kind of a quick podcast episode, but that's okay. So, getting into the whips that I do have. Both of these were started pretty specifically to be travel projects. One more reasonably so than the other. The one I'm about to talk about is a great travel project. It only has 1 skein of yarn going at this one time, or 1 ball of yarn going at a time. It's lightweight, it can fit in a small bag. And so I started it pretty specifically to go on the planes and on the trains as we were traveling around. And this was 100% my train project. So anytime we were on a train, this is what I took. I didn't touch the second project at all while on trains specifically. So this project is my Knus Light by Elsebeth Judith. I might be saying her name wrong. If I am, I do apologize. But you can see I've gotten a decent bit done. So I've split off for the sleeves about 1.5 inches ago. And so here it is close up. This is a t-shirt. This is fingering weight wool. I'm knitting this in Avon by Miss Babs, which is a wool and silk blend. So it's gonna be a little bit of a warmer t-shirt, but I'm okay with that. Honestly, it gets so hot here in the summer that when we're talking like middle of summer hot, I'm not sure I'll be wearing any knitwear no matter what it's made out of. And it's just sort of a little bit miserable here at that point in the summer no matter what. But spring and fall can be quite nice, and so a little bit of a warmer t-shirt is absolutely going to find a place in my wardrobe. Not worried about it. But I really wanted to use this yarn because of this ridiculous neon blue color. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. And the more I knit it up, the more happy it makes me. It's so pretty, and it's such soft yarn. It's really, really nice. So yeah, I do recommend this yarn. It's very nice to work with. It's interesting yarn because it is a 2-ply yarn with a very like tight twist. And so let's see if it shows up on camera. If you look in like the stockinette sections up close, they don't lay like nice and flat. They almost look like the stitches are a bit twisted. But they're not twisted, it's just how the yarn lays. It's just what it looks like. So if that's not your thing, it's something to keep in mind. I don't mind it, and I think especially for such a highly textured project as this one, it's actually kind of interesting and gives it even more dimension, but something to keep in mind. I do like on this one, it's got quite a wide neckline. So if you look at pictures of the pattern, it definitely scoops down a little bit, which I think is very nice looking. And there's no ribbing, so it just has this little pearl ridge right here, just nice and simple. I am knitting the size 3, but my row gauge is quite off. It's about 6 rows tighter than what the pattern calls for. So I want to say the pattern, I'm not gonna be able to remember the gauges at all. I think it's something like, if it's 32 rows, I'm knitting 38 rows. But again, I don't think those are the numbers. I can't quite remember. But it's quite a bit off. And so I didn't want to end up in a section where I had to knit like a ton of extra rows of plain stockinette and like mess up the patterning like ratios. So I had to do a little bit of math to figure out how to deal with the row gauge situation. So what I did was I calculated how many inches my gauge would get with the number of rows in the pattern for the yoke depth. And then I figured out how many rows I needed to make up the difference between the depth I was gonna get and the depth the pattern called for. Then I calculated how many inches in the original gauge my extra rows would create. And then I looked at the pattern to see which size corresponded to that length. I don't know if that makes any sense. There's probably a way easier way to go about this. But basically I was trying to see which pattern size I should follow for row counts to get the size 3 dimensions using my row gauge. And it took a little bit of maneuvering, but I actually, again, that might have been really confusing. It's hard to like talk this through. I need like a whiteboard or something so I can schematic it out, but I'm not that well prepared right now, so I apologize. But basically I was trying to find which size in the pattern I needed to follow for all of that. And it turns out that it's almost perfectly, if I follow the size 5 row count dimensions, I end up with the size 3 fit. So the plan was to follow size 3 for anything stitch count related, so going around, so the number you cast on every time you increase, anything like that, but to follow size 5 directions for anything for like number of rows knit. And so that's what I did, and I think it's coming out good, as far as I can tell. So, and there is a little bit of cheating. So like at the end, before you divide for sleeves, it does just say knit stockinette until it's the right length. And so, you know, it gets saved there. I was able to make small adjustments there, but I am still happy I put the extra rows in a lot of the pattern repeats, because otherwise the stockinette section would be huge. And like I said, it would just mess with the pattern flow a little bit. So that was why I did it that way. Again, there are probably more straightforward ways to figure all of that out than what I did, but that is what I did, so. And then just so you can see, this little stitch marker here is how far I got while on vacation. So everything since the stitch marker I've done in the last couple of days. I took an extra couple of days off at work because I had the worst jet lag of my entire life by a lot. Like, I've done quite a bit of international traveling, but this trip broke me. Like, I was out of commission for like 3 days. It was brutal. And I'm not really sure what it was that was so much harder about this trip than other trips I've been on. But we're feeling better now. Hopefully I'll get some good sleep tonight before I go back to work tomorrow. But it's been rough. But I've gotten a lot of knitting done because I haven't really been able to do anything else. So yeah, there are 2 versions of this top. There's one where the body is knit in stock net and one where the body is knit entirely in the textured pattern, and I'm going for the textured version. And yeah, so I'm just starting the eyelet section, this part, for the body. And again, I'm just really, really happy with this. It's fun to knit on. I did underestimate how tedious a fingering weight project was gonna be. I don't think I've ever actually done one, which I didn't realize until I was like in the middle of this and just sort of hating life a little bit. But now that I've divided for sleeves and I've gotten rid of a couple hundred or like 150 stitches, it's feeling much better. It's going at a very reasonable pace and I'm enjoying it, and it is really fun to watch the textured stitches grow and watch the pattern evolve. I think if I was doing the straight stockinette one, it would be quite a slog, especially with my tighter row gauge. Like, it grows even slower than the pattern's supposed to. So, but with the textured patterns, it's a lot of fun and I do really, really like it. It is designed to have short sleeves, so there's only a couple extra inches. They're not like short, but like probably here. But yeah, really, really happy with this. I need to wind up my second ball of yarn so that I can fade them in together, because this is hand-dyed yarn and there is some variegation in the colors, and so I want to make sure I have about 1 inch of fade before I fully switch to the second ball, and I'm about at that point where I need to start doing that. So it's on pause a little bit until I can get motivated to go wind my ball of yarn, because I don't own a ball winder, and winding a fingering weight skein is a little time consuming, so I've been putting it off for, you know, the last day or so. But yeah, really happy with it so far. Oh, and just in case you're wondering, so if you're watching the last episode, you will know that I wasn't able to cast this one on the day I wanted to because I lost my needles. And the update on that is I still have not found my needles. I was kind of hoping, like, ordering the new needles would somehow make the ones I lost show up, or that, like, as soon as I got back from vacation, they would, like, pop up somewhere and I'd find them, because they are part of my interchangeable set, and I don't use size 4s that often, so I only own 1 set of tips for it, and I don't appreciate my needle set being incomplete. It really bothers my brain. So yeah, still don't know where they are. I've looked everywhere. I've torn my couch apart. I've looked in every drawer, every basket. I have no idea. But I did manage to get to my local yarn store before our trip, and I got a set of circular needles. Well, 2 sets. So I got the 16-inch one, and I got I think it was a 30-inch cord. I can't remember, but because they're not interchangeable, I did need 2. So this is what I got for 4-inch needles right now, and I will probably just have to order a new set of the Chowgu Twist interchangeable tips, which makes me a little sad. And that is the other thing. So I haven't been enjoying knitting on this as much as I probably would have with my Chowgus, because I do really like metal knitting needle tips. I just like the way they feel in my hand. I like the slight weight to them. I feel like I knit a little faster with them. And the wooden ones are fine, they're growing on me, but they're not my favorite. And especially for like doing all the increases and stuff, I found the tips a little hard to get in under this yarn, because this yarn's a little, you know, it's thin and slippery, and sometimes it was hard to get the traction that I needed. And yeah, so they're fine. I like these tips. There's nothing wrong with them. They were what my local yarn store had, and I was very thankful that I could get them in time. And I knit like most of the yoke on this in the first plane ride, and I wouldn't have had that if I couldn't have gotten these needles. So I am happy. But yeah, I am still looking for my metal ones. This would be nice to find. But yeah, so this is my Knus Light. And I'm hoping to get it done somewhat quickly just because like I said, don't own very many summer knitwear, very much summer knitwear. And it would be nice to add to that collection. So that's my first whip, which, by the way, I never talk about project bags because I really don't use them. And so I either just shove my knitting into my purse, which is a mess and it gets it tangled up with my keys, and it's not a great system. I don't recommend it, but I regularly do that. Or if they're at home, I just stash all of my yarns. I have 2 yarn bowls that I've been gifted over the years. And so I'll just have projects stacked on top of these, which, again, not a project bag, but it does help me like consolidate, I suppose. Or when I was traveling around Japan, I was using this. And it's just a little reusable like shopping bag made from recycled bottles. I actually got this when we were in Granada, Spain last year, which is why it's all pomegranates. But I especially like this, when I travel, I will shove this in my carry-on and then pull it out while I'm on the plane. And this is what goes under the seat, and it holds all my knitting and all my snacks. And then I was using it on the train in Japan as well. So I would just loop it around my shoulder. To the point where one of the times we were on the train and it was standing room only, but I managed to like find a rail to lean against, and I had this propped on my shoulder holding the yarn, and I was just standing there knitting and actually got quite a few rows done. So not a bad system. I like this bag. It was, you know, quick, cheap, nothing fancy, and probably the closest I have to a project bag. I just don't really have them. So sometimes I'll just throw, in a pinch, I'll throw my knitting into like literally like a shopping bag that I got, like a plastic bag that the store gave me for shopping. So it is what it is. But with that being said, let's get on to my other whip. And this one I think is my favorite. I've been obsessed with it. This is the one I've been working the most on, to be totally honest. So this, and there is yarn everywhere on this, so it's gonna be kind of hard to show. I think it's a tangled mess right now. The yarn's rolling away from me. All right, this is the Arthur cardigan by Tricot Design, MCL. So I'm trying a new camera angle out today, so I don't quite know the best way to show things yet, but we will figure that out as we go. Actually, to address that, so I wanted to change the camera angle a little bit because my window is over here, and this is a very dark room, and so I'm just trying to like sneak myself closer to the sunlight, like just get as close to it as I can. But yeah, I don't have a lot of sunlight in my house. It's just a very dark house for some reason, and so we're trying to do what we can. But yeah, I hope you guys don't mind the slight change in angle. You still got my nice bookshelves and stuff, so it should be nice. My little reading nook is definitely the most photogenic spot in my house, so. But yeah, so this is my Arthur cardigan, aka the Pardigan is what I've dubbed it, because I think this yarn is a party. Here's the back. You can really see the nice color shifts that way. So this is knit also with Miss Fab's yarn. This is knit with Yowza in the color Eternity, which is a superwash merino DK, held together with their silk mohair, which is called Moonglow, in the colorway Ziggy Stardust. So as you can see, it's got a lot of colors going on. The Mohair is the variegated yarn, so it's got all these beautiful colors, these greens and these bright yellows, purples, fuchsias, blues, everything. And then the Yowza is this really, really pretty like midnight blue color. It's nice and dark. So those are held together to create this effect. And so I do just love the colors. I love how it's turning out. I've almost got one sleeve done. I'm working on the ribbing right now. And so I'm going for a bit of an extra oversized fit on the like not like beyond what the pattern calls for, but on like the far end of what the pattern calls for. So like whatever the most amount of ease it said it was designed for, that's kind of what I'm going for, because I want a nice snuggly cardigan. I really like, it's a drop shoulder design, and I did think that the shoulder design and then the pickup for the sleeves came out very neat on this. I think it looks very nice and tidy. The button band, it's a ribbed button band. You knit it as you go, which is nice. So I'm not gonna have to pick up any sleeves or any stitches for the button band at the end. And yeah, I've already got the first couple of buttonholes done, and then I stopped on the body so I could do the sleeves, just because, like I said, I am going for a slightly oversized fit. And I'm probably going to end up using most, if not all, of the Yowza that I have. I think I'm gonna be fine on the Mohair. But I did just want to get the sleeves done so that I could knit the body basically until I run out of yarn, because I do want a pretty snuggly cardigan. So I don't want it to be too cropped. I don't want the sleeves to be too short. And I don't want to be worrying about yarn as we go. Like, I'd rather the body be slightly more cropped than for the sleeves to suddenly have to be short. So I'm just prioritizing right now and getting the sleeves done. But yeah, I absolutely love it. I have been alternating the mohairs as I go, just to help control the color pooling. The colors are so nicely distributed in these yarns. It's pretty much not a problem. I maybe didn't need to do it, but there were a couple of spots when I was doing the front panels. Let's see if it'll show up. So if you could kind of see in the middle here, this area, it had quite a long ways where there really wasn't any yellow or brighter greens showing up. And so I did have to do a little bit of color management there, and I don't mind this amount of, pulling or whatever. Like, I think this looks nice, but as I was knitting it, I knew that I wouldn't want like any more, because the yarn was very much wanting the yellows to be on the edges of those front panels, and like it was just perfectly lining up. And both the yarns, even though I was alternating, kept like lining up with each other in the same part of the color transitions. And so I ended up cutting my mohair and just restarting it so that it would offset one color from the other, so that it would spread it out more evenly. And it worked fine. It was an easy fix. And there are just a couple of spots on the sweater like that. And I think the amount that it has happened naturally, it looks really nice. The color looks, nicely distributed, and it's a lot of fun. And then honestly, my favorite part about this mohair is the yellow is the one that pops the most, but every now and then there's like the tiniest bit of orange in these. Like, there's like a single drop of orange dye on like each of them. And when the orange shows up, it's just so pretty, and it's such a nice touch, and it just breaks up the colors in like a very fun way. And like, there's so little orange, it's almost gonna be hard to like make it show up on camera, so I'm not even gonna try necessarily. But it is my favorite part of the sweater, the little tiny drops of orange. So yeah, I'm really loving how this is turning out. The fabric it makes is really soft. I like this mohair. It's very soft and nice to work with. Although hand winding balls of mohair from Hank is awful, and it is making me want to buy a ball winder and Swift. If I do any more projects with a hand dyed mohair like that, I will probably buy a ball winder and Swift when I order the mohair, because I'm not sure I want to do that again. But it's done for this project, so I can continue to procrastinate that purchase for a little while longer. But yeah, let's see. This might be hard to try on because of all the yarn ends, but I can give it a go. So yeah, we can do that. It's a little tight because it wants to, it'll spread out more than it is on the bottom needles right now, but I don't have a longer cord to put them on right this second, so it's just gonna stay. So right now it's like a little tiny crop sweater. I'm going for, it calls for 3 inches of ribbing on the sleeves, so they'll end about here, right at like thumb length, which is what I was going for. They're nice and baggy sleeves, nothing too tight. But yeah, I think this is super cute. The first button is here, so closed it would be, let's see if I can line them up. Closed it would be kind of about here, so nice deep V-neck. Here's the back. You can see the nice shoulder shaping there. Yeah, I'm just pleased with this. I think it's super cute. I ended up buying a couple of button options on Etsy last night, so we'll see when those come in. I'll share them with you. I'm actually thinking kind of like a silvery button, like a metal, like silver button to kind of pop a little bit without adding too much craziness to the sweater because it's already busy enough. But I think that would look really nice and would just kind of break up the crazy variegation a little bit. You have a little focal point for the buttons. We'll see. I bought a couple of options, so I'll see which one I like the best when they come in. But oh my gosh, this sweater is already so hot. I guess it's warm in here. I'm actually having to run the AC. So, but yeah, this is the Arthur cardigan. Tricot Designs MCL. I really like it. I am knitting the 3rd size, I believe. I was between the small and the medium, and I went with the medium because, like I said, I wanted the slightly more positive ease. Oh, I also accidentally knit both front panels and the back panel 2 rows longer than the pattern called for, just because I spaced out and forgot to stop knitting. And so then I had to pick up an extra 2 stitches for the sleeve, and I did an extra decrease to get it down to the final stitch count at the end. So very slight modification. I don't think it really affects the sweater much at all. I think it added like maybe a 1/4 of an inch to the armhole depth, like if that. But I figured I'd let you know that is different than what the pattern called for. So yeah, super happy. That is the Arthur cardigan, or the Cardigan. And yeah, so those are both of my active whips right now. However, I do have quite a few acquisitions. So my only request in Japan was to go to a yarn store. And to eat a lot of food. Like, I had other things I wanted to do, but like my big request that differed from the other people in the group was to go to a yarn store. So I did get quite a few Japanese yarns. And so the yarn store we found, I don't know the name of it. I'll put up the information here. Here. Sorry, I have to start pointing to the right now, this new angle. But I'm not totally sure how to pronounce it, but I know they have like an Instagram and all that. So I will put up the information. But it was super fun. It was in Namba in Osaka, which is this really interesting area near sort of the downtown section, where it has lots of like art stores and hobby stores and anime and Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I know about the Yu-Gi-Oh cards because that's my husband's hobby, so it worked out. And so I was looking up yarn stores and I saw this one and I was like, oh, this one looks really cool, we should go. And he's like, okay, we're supposed to go to Namba today. And I was like, I didn't know where the yarn store was when I found it on Google Maps. I didn't know Osaka well enough to know where it was. And I was like, okay, well, the yarn store will be quick. Like, do you mind if we go there first and then we can head over to Namba? And he's like, yeah, sure. And so we're on our way there on the transportation. And I look at the map again and I go, oh, that's weird. The yarn store is in Namba. And he's like, wait, really? And I was like, yeah, look. And I show him, and it's literally in the middle of the neighborhood we were trying to go to anyways. So yeah, it worked out really well. And then we were walking to the yarn store, and next door to the yarn store is a Yu-Gi-Oh store, which is what my husband wanted to go to. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. You just go in here, I'll go in here. Our hobbies are next door to each other. Like, this is amazing. And he was super willing to go to the yarn store and just hang out with me in there for a while. But I was actually quite happy that he was somewhere else and doing his own thing and occupied, because I spent like a good 15 minutes just like holding 2 balls of yarn and staring at them and having a little bit of an internal crisis about which one I was gonna buy. Ended up buying neither. And that would have been, I don't think I would have been able to stand there and do that if I had known that people were waiting on me. And so yeah, I got to go by myself and have a little moment with all the yarns, and it was a lot of fun. The yarn store, I'll put up some pictures, I'll put up some videos that I took while I was in there, but it had so much yarn. Like, it almost was like, it had like a hoarder quality to it, because the yarn went like really deep into all of these bins. Like, you could just like, they were nicely organized. You could see what you were going for, but like the yarn was stacked so deep and there was yarn on every single wall, and it was really quite fun to be in there. And they had all sorts of yarns. They had a lot of Italian yarns, a lot of English yarns. And I did make a point, I was trying to find Japanese yarns. So I loved all the yarns. I could have gone crazy in that store. I did try to limit myself to ones made in Japan. So I'll go, the first one is not too surprising. I could have gotten this in the US, but they had the best supply of Noro yarn that I have ever seen anywhere. And so, like I said, I know I can get this in the US, but it was just a wall of Noro, and it was all so beautiful, and I could not resist. So I got, usually I'd only show you one skein, but this is kind of fun to do all of them. Yeah, I got 3 big, huge balls of Noro Rikka. And let's see if there's a color. I actually don't see a color name on this. Oh, it says color 10. So, color 10. And it's this really nice beige and brown and cream sort of, you know, all together yarn. It's got quite a bit of thick and thinness to it. It is 57% wool, 22% alpaca, and 21% silk. It is quite soft, but it does still feel a little bit rustic, like it's not like slippery soft. And I think this would be considered a bulky yarn. It's pretty chunky. But yeah, I got 3 of these, so there's 320 meters per ball, so I got 960 meters of this, which is, you know, good chunk of wool. And my plan for this is I'm hoping to make some like kind of really oversized, just comfy, chunky, like sweatshirt type of situation. I'm seeing like quite longer, you know, quite a bit longer, maybe like a nice deep split hem, something that I can, on nice cold days in the winter, just feel extra snuggled up in. And yeah, I think that would be really nice. I don't have a specific pattern yet, but that's just the type of project I'm envisioning for this. And I think it would look really nice. And I think for something like kind of big and oversized like that, the little bit of like thick and thin will look fun and handmade, and you know, it won't mess with, like, if I was trying to make something that looked a little more polished, it might look funky. But yeah, and I'm not usually much of a, this color surprised me. This is not usually a color I would go for, but the darker browns in there, and it was just so pretty. I really, really liked it. And I stared at the Noro wall for quite a long time before I went with this one. So yeah, excited for that. So we got 3 balls of Noro Rikka. And then I got, this yarn might need a bit of an explanation, but I got 10 balls of this. And this is Lobel by Ski Yarn. And it's got, you can see all these really pretty colors in it. It's actually looking a lot brighter on the screen than I think it is in real life. It's actually quite muted in real life. Maybe if I hold it, yeah, so if I hold it back a little bit, that's maybe a little bit more true to the color intensity once it's, you know, more out of the direct ring light that I have here. But it is really pretty. So it's got these greens and these burgundies and some blues, and the whole thing kind of comes off to almost sort of a brownish undertone. But I really like this yarn. Ski Yarn, as far as I can tell, is a Japanese brand. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I was trying to figure all this out well, I couldn't really read all of the labels, and I was trying to use Google Translate. It's a little difficult. But this is color number 8104. And yeah, there are, I believe this is maybe a DK. There are 90 meters per 30 grams. It's so this is interesting yarn. So it's 70% wool and 30%, I think it was acrylic. And when I looked it up, it said something about the acrylic being like brushed over the wool. Again, a lot of the websites were in Japanese and I was translating, so it might have been not what it was saying. But yeah, it is nice and soft. I like the feel of it. I really like the colors. And so the story with this yarn is the first time I went to this yarn store twice. So the first time I went, I got the Noro yarn. I spent a ton of time just staring at all the yarns and feeling overwhelmed. And then I saw this yarn and went, okay, yes, I love this. And I grabbed 6 balls. And I wanted more, but I was like, I don't know, I have to pack all of this. And yarn takes up a lot of space and luggage. So we'll stick with the 6. And we went back to the Airbnb and I was looking at all my yarn and I just kept thinking about it. And so 90 meters per ball, I had 6 of them. So I had like 540 meters. And I was just like, that's a weird amount of yarn. It's like too much for a hat. It's not enough for like a nice shawl. It's enough for a small shawl, but I don't really like small shawls. It's not enough for a sweater. It's enough for like a t-shirt, but this would be a really warm t-shirt. You know, I was kind of going through all of the thoughts and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And finally, I just asked my husband, I was like, can we go back? Can we please go back to the yarn store? And I had one of the friends on the trip with us really wanted to go to the yarn store as well and get some yarn for her mom, which, ooh, maybe shouldn't have said that. Michelle, Brigitte bought you yarn. I know you watched the podcast. I'm sorry I spoiled it. It's beautiful yarn. You're gonna love it. But we went back and I got 4 more balls of this yarn. So now I have 900 meters and my plan is to I really want to make a nice shawl with it. And I've said before, I'm not a huge shawl knitter, but I just think the colors in this would be so beautiful in like a nice, like a really nice big shawl and something with like an interesting construction maybe, but not too much texture is sort of what I'm picturing. I have a few ideas in mind. It's going to be a while before I cast this on. I'm not feeling knitting a shawl right this second. So I'm taking my time. I'm looking through Ravelry. I've got a few ideas. If you have any ideas, please feel free to send me your favorites because like I said, I have some time. I'd like to see all my options. So, yeah, so this is Ski Yarn Lobel. I have 10 of these. And when I went back to get the extra 4, because I was only going to get the extra 4, obviously I wasn't going to buy any more yarn. I saw their wall of Mohair. And they had a couple of brands of Mohair that were Japanese made that I'd never seen before. And they were both heavier than lace weight and really interesting construction. And so I'll put up a little shot of me holding up both of them here. A little video my husband took of me while I was there the second time. And so the first one I was looking at it was a silk mohair and I think nylon blend, and it was so soft. It was stunning. It was so beautiful. It was heavier than a lace weight. I'm not sure exactly what it would have been, but you could just tell it was thicker. And I was so tempted by it. It was so pretty. But then I saw this one. And so this is Clover Yarn Company. Let's see if I can cover my face up so that and this is 100% mohair. So there's no silk in this. And so you can kind of see it doesn't have that, it's shiny because mohair is shiny, but it's not that like, I don't know, it's just different. And this is so soft. Like I can't even explain. This feels so nice. It feels like luxury. I'm in love with this. I think it's stunning. And I have looked, I cannot find this in the US. It's not an option. I looked pretty hard. And if I'm wrong, please let me know because I would buy this again. This is stunning. I know I haven't even knit with it yet and I'm just like, I want more of this. It's so pretty. That being said, I'm not 100% sure what I'm gonna make with it yet. So you can see it's a decently thick strand. I have 5 balls of this. This is 40 gram balls, 80 meters per ball, so 500 meters of this thick mohair yarn. My thought right now is to make I think it's the Cargill Cowl, I think that's how you say it, by Rebecca Clow. Also, she's the Crayabea on Instagram and Instagram and YouTube. And I love her patterns, and I think the Cargill Cowl is about the right yardage for what I can make. I can just make it like a little bit shorter than what she has, which is fine. And I do think like something like a nice cowl, or I was thinking like a really lacy shawl so it would make the yarn go farther, would be great for this, because otherwise I'm not really sure what I would make with it. But yeah, I love this. It's just such an interesting texture and it's so pretty. And usually I'm not like a cream yarn person, but this cream was just so perfect and pretty and I could not resist. So this was the purchase I was not supposed to make. I was only supposed to buy 4 of the ski yarns. Lobels, and instead I ended up with 5 mohairs. But no regrets. I love this yarn. So those are all my yarn acquisitions. I do have one last acquisition. It's been a long time coming, but it's a scale. So I do now own a scale to weigh my yarns, and yeah, happy with it. I've been using it. So I feel like I'm becoming a real knitter all of a sudden, but thought I'd share. I just picked that up at Target. I wanted something so that I could split some of my balls of mohair for my Arthur cardigan in half and get them somewhat even. And then I've been using it to weigh other things, mostly just for fun right now. Can't explain it. But yeah, that's all I have for knitting right now. So I'm just gonna be continuing working on my Arthur cardigan and my Knus Light. At some point I'll get back to my hue shift afghan and my wishbone sweater, and honestly right now I probably just have too many whips. I think that's what I'm realizing. I have 4 really large whips and I want to knit on all of them and I can't, and it's a little sad. But I'll be back with you guys with an update in a couple of weeks on all of this stuff. I don't know what I have planned for next week. I will keep you guys updated. If you liked this video, please give it a like. If you are new here and you haven't subscribed yet, please think about subscribing. Commenting, literally any way you can interact with this video makes YouTube happy and helps me get further out into the YouTube world as far as the algorithm is concerned, and I do really appreciate it. And beyond that, it does just make me very happy. I read every single comment. I enjoy, you know, having conversations with you guys in the comments. It's not just about the algorithm. It really is a lot of fun for me to see the community growing and to be able to interact with you guys. So all of those good things. If you want to follow me on anything else, I am Bonnie Coit on both Instagram and Ravelry. The spelling will be in the description below, along with all of the patterns that I mentioned. I'll have them linked to the Ravelry pages so you can find them there. And yeah, I think that's all I have for you guys today. So with that being said, thank you so much for joining me today. I will see you guys next time, and happy knitting. Bye.